New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation promotes, preserves, and perpetuates music, culture, and heritage through programs, cultural, educational, and economic activities year-round. Learn more at jazzandheritage.org. The American Italian Cultural Center and Museum on South Peters in New Orleans offers event venue space, Italian language classes, dual citizenship and translation services, seminars, genealogy, and trips to Italy. Ciao, AmericanItalianCulturalCenter.com. This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.
I'm Peggy Scott Laborde, and welcome to Steppin Out, with updates from the local restaurant, arts, and entertainment scenes. Joining me, Alfred Richard, movie critic for WWL-TV. Hey, welcome, Alfred.
Thank you, Peggy.
Howdy, hey, he's back. And making her Steppin Out debut, Chef Dee Lavigne, owner of Deelightful Roux School of Cooking. Good to see you. Located at the Southern Food and Beverage Museum. And she's also the culinary programming director for the museum, too. We're so glad you're here. Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And Alan Smason, editor of the Crescent City Jewish News and theatercriticism.com. And Poppy will return next week. Good to see you, Alan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And starting off with Chef Dee. Now, Chef Dee, it all started with cupcakes, didn't it?
It did. It really did.
But it's changed into something, transformed into something else at
Completely, yes. So, of course, I started a cupcake business in 2016 called Deelightful Cupcakes. Very successful business, I might add. I was happy with making cupcakes. I loved baking. And then, of course, we had some twists and turns along the way, and COVID being one of them.
Yeah. And so, but it did bring you to Southern Food and Beverage Museum, the wonderful Liz Williams and the staff. And so now, on a regular basis, you are doing a cooking school, which is just great, but you're also doing videos for WWL on the weekends.
Yes,
you know?
that's true.
So we actually have borrowed a clip from one of them, and here is Dee, and it's just an excerpt. It's just a little taste, but she is talking about making a bittersweet chocolate brownie pie. Take a look.
So for this particular recipe, I am using 18 ounces of unsalted butter, 9 ounces of bittersweet chocolate. We have 3 ounces of sugar and 6 eggs, 6 large eggs. So once you get your pie out of the oven, the way that you're gonna tell that it's done is you can kind of tap it a little bit on the top. It should feel a little jiggly, but not enough to depress and leave an indent. So our pie is done. Make sure it's completely cooled before you cut it. And we're gonna cut a wedge and show you what this pie looks like on the inside. It's completely delicious. Beautiful, looks amazing, and goes great with ice cream. Of course, you can put a little whipped cream, some berries on that if you want, but this is our pie. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and please come down and visit us at the Southern Food and Beverage Museum.
All right, now you can see the entire video on WWL-TV's YouTube channel, and really very nicely done, but also Chef Dee is kind enough to share with us the recipe. Ooh. So you just email me, plaborde@wyes.org, and I will send it. So that's great news too. But now, so 2 days a week you're doing classes?
I do 3 days a week.
3 days a week?
Yes.
Ooh. Okay.
Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays I do public classes where you can just sign up on the website. You could happen to just be in the museum visiting and participate, come in and take the class.
That sounds like so much fun. And so you get to eat what you make?
Yes, you eat what you make. That's one of my rules. Everybody thinks that it's some kind of magical something we have hidden off in the back. And, you know, when they do a tour, which is a part of our class, that we switch it out and put out the real food. I'm like, no way. I'm going to show you how to do this from scratch, beginning to end, and you're actually going to eat what you make.
And what are some of the dishes usually?
So we do a Cajun class and a Creole class. So for the Cajun class, we focus on a chicken and andouille gumbo, which is fantastic. We do a corn makshu appetizer, which is quite lovely. And for the Creole class, we do jambalaya. I do a seafood jambalaya, and we also do a smothered okra and tomato appetizer.
Well, you know, if someone has not been to the Southern Food and Beverage Museum, make a day of it, because just to go into the museum itself, all kinds of wonderful food and culinary-related memorabilia, a lot of familiar signs from New Orleans, so you could take a bit of a tour and then take the class as well.
Yeah.
And so to sign up for the class, chefdeelavigne.com,
yes.
is that correct? Okay,
That's
great. But I just think going to visit there. Now, what I love also in terms of your history and your story is that you were very inspired by a woman named Lena Richard. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I guess I never really heard of Lena Richard until I was an adult. I was actually doing a tour inside of the Southern Food and Beverage Museum. Liz, who was the founder and the mastermind of the museum, was showing me the entrepreneurial space that I was going to use for my cupcake business. And as we're walking through, there was an exhibit for Lena Richard, and she says, "Hey, do you know Lena Richard? Do you know about her?" And I'm like, maybe, I don't know, I'm just like, show me the space, right? We'll figure this out later. You show me the space. And of course, I went through, and eventually I did start to learn more about Lena Richard. And I was intrigued. And the biggest part is that I realized I was doing a lot of the same similar career choices that she had made. And it was almost kind of scary, meaning that I never really knew that much about her, and to find out I'm following the path that she kind of led. And of course, I started doing some work with the Smithsonian that really made me dive into who Lena Richard was, what she had accomplished, and to learn more about her life story.
And her cookbook is still in publication, which is just great.
It's awesome. I love the fact that we had copies of her cookbook for sale, but every single time we sell out, I talk about Lena Richard and how she's influenced me in my classes, and of course it motivates people to want to know more about her. And so we sell out of that book. We can't keep it on the shelves.
But I'm sure hopefully it's available at local bookstores and online. And stuff like that.
And it's available online.
Yeah. Well, of course, a future goal is your own cookbook, right?
Correct.
Of course, right.
Yes, that is coming. It's coming.
Good. I'm so glad. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And moving on to Mr. Allen.
Well, just in time for Satchmo Fest. It's not that far off. And to prepare you for that, the full cast has just been announced for What a Wonderful World. It's called A Wonderful World, and it's, of course, the story of Louis Armstrong. It'll be here first in New Orleans in October, and like Louis Armstrong, it's going to then travel to Chicago before it goes to New York.
Exactly.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes, very good.
Already announced as Louis is, of course, Aladdin's original Tony-winning genie, and most recently seen as Lafayette and Thomas Jefferson in Hamilton. That, of course, is none other than James Monroe Iglehart, and you can see him right here with another fellow lover of Broadway. That was back in 2014. Again, it stars a number of ladies who portray the wives and women in Louis Armstrong's life. Playing Lil Hardin is Jenny Harney Fleming, who was also in Hamilton on Broadway and The Color Purple. And then playing Lucille Wilson will be Terea Campbell, who was one of the national tours of Hamilton, one of the Schuyler sisters, and on Broadway, The Lion King and The Book of Mormon. This is a full, beautiful cast of really talented people. And then playing Daisy Parker is Khalifa White, who I saw on Broadway in Caroline or Change and off Broadway in Little Shop of Horrors, and who was recently Nala in the national tour of The Lion King that played here at the Sanger. Also playing Alpha Smith is Brennan Lark, who toured in the national tour of Les Miserables and was on Broadway as Catherine Parr recently in Six. So that is a fabulous cast. Also, going to be making her producer's debut is Vanessa Williams. Yes, that Vanessa Williams. She's going to be producing this wonderful show, A Wonderful World. So go check that out. It's going to be the pre-Broadway tryout at the Sanger Theater. Then it goes to Chicago, plays for a week or two, and then goes into New York, hopefully at a great theater there. Now, a reminder that several shows are going to be opening, Peg, and I want everybody to know that I'll not be here the next couple of weeks, so you're going to have to take my word. These are going to be great shows. First off, we have Newsies. This is the fantastic choreography and the music of Alan Menken with Newsies going to be at Rivertown. And the shows that open now and will continue through July the 23rd. And of course, Shakespeare's Star-Crossed Lovers, Romeo and Juliet, will be seen at the New Orleans Shakespeare Festival's new production that'll be seen in the Lupin Theater and the Dixon Hall Annex on the Tulane campus. So check that out. And also, at Tulane, I just can't wait to talk about and see this. Tulane Summer Lyric Theater is already getting ready to pick a pocket or two with the wonderful Oliver by Lionel Bart.
Oh my goodness!
And look who returns to play Fagin, John Grimsley. I cannot wait for that. Now, also, listen to this, Peggy. You're going to like where I go with this. Chances are you'll like Sweet Bird of Youth by Tennessee Williams, right?
Very good.
The Tennessee Williams Theater Company presents that work for the first time with a great cast. Leading the cast will be Rachel Groves Whitman as the princess, and the show will be seen at Loyola University's Lower Depths Theater. Now, I have a wonderful picture taken Tuesday night at the National World War II Museum. I want everybody to know this is the first of the Stage Door Idol winners, and I wasn't able to be there, but Noah Lanier won the first male to win in some time, and he's going to give the ladies a run for their money, I hope. So I'll be the judge on August the 1st. That'll be the 4th week, so I'll be missing the next couple weeks here and at the World War II Museum, but you will find out who won on the next show that I'll be on, and we'll talk about that. And that'll be the 4th week. Also, just a quick note, if we have time,
yes.
I wanted to mention I have here a proclamation, and thank you to Joe Giarrusso the third, a city councilman. We have a proclamation to announce Raise the Bastille Radiothon Observance Day. Now, Raise the Bastille Radiothon, and that's Raise, R-A-I-S-E, 50 years ago on July the 14th, that's tomorrow, Mike McHugh and I came up with the idea to have a fundraiser for the Parish Prison Inmate Welfare Fund, and we had, among other people appearing to play music for the first time on a stereo broadcast, Professor Longhair, who came out of retirement, of course, Alan Toussaint, Dr. John, the Meters, and of course Chris Kenner, Robert Parker, Jesse Hill, Lee Dorsey, and many others. It was the most incredible.
This is WTUL.
This was on WTUL, and it was the most incredible concert. I don't think we ever had that many New Orleans star-studded concert people in attendance, especially playing in Parish Prison. But it was a great event,
wow.
And again, 50 years ago. I don't know where all the years have gone.
I know, you're just a baby. Thank you. And on to Alfred.
Well, Peggy, when I was coming up with the ideas about talking about movies this week, I wanted to go back and forth in my Wayback Machine about how movie production has changed in this area for so many years. The first movie is, of course, a Hollywood classic directed by Elia Kazan, A Streetcar Named Desire.
And Alfred, if you don't mind, let me just say, let's set this up a little bit. My thought was, we want to be cool. Let's stay inside.
Yes.
Okay, go to the movies, of course, but these days, maybe if you want to stay inside and watch something New Orleans focused. So that's the setup here.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. We set it up, and now we're going to bring it back. Here we go. Of course, A Streetcar Named Desire, with the great performances by Marlon Brando, Vivian Leigh. Again, a star-studded cast. But the film was, although set in New Orleans, because of course it's Tennessee Williams' play, there are only a few scenes in the city of New Orleans, and one of them is at the foot of Canal Street, where Vivian Leigh's character is trying to catch a streetcar named Desire, and then here comes the streetcar. And that's the height of it. You don't have a lot of New Orleans scenes except for the opening where it was on the riverfront and this. But you can see a great film. You can get it. It's available on YouTube, Apple TV, and Google Play. Now we go further into the 80s. And this one brings up a good friend of all of us, Angela Hill and Clint Eastwood. And this was the film that was called Tightrope. Clint Eastwood plays a New Orleans police detective who has certain predilections, that shall we say, and he's being interviewed in the front steps, I believe, of the court.
There she is. Look,
and there she is, Angela Hill being interviewed, and they were even able to use the Channel 4 flag for that one there. But that was Angela's appearance on television, and of course, I always joke with Eric Paulson that we two are going back and forth to how many times we can appear on TV and movies, and most of mine are usually on the cutting room floor, just like Eric. But no matter what, you'll love seeing this. Tightrope has more production in New Orleans, although you will laugh at some of the things where...
some of the geography.
Yeah, yes. The geography. Clint Eastwood is running and chasing after the supposed killer, runs around the corner of St. Louis Cathedral, and before too long, he's uptown.
And then he's in a cemetery
He's
suddenly,
in a
too.
cemetery.
Yes.
We're trying to figure out, it's enjoyable watching it as well. And of course, it's still, I would say, about rated R, PG-13.
Yeah,
but it's,
definitely.
Yes, available on Tubi, YouTube, and Apple TV. And now we move into the production age of now. We have New Orleans or Hollywood South, and this one is Girls Trip. Now, this one has, of course, the great stars, Tiffany Haddish. And this one was filmed mostly in New Orleans.
And Queen Latifah.
And Queen Latifah. Again, you have a real New Orleans feel to this one, especially when the ladies are on Bourbon Street. Although a lot of people ask me, where's that rope slide, or where's that slide across Bourbon Street? I have to tell them, that was a movie. You don't do that. You can't do that in New Orleans. But Girls Trip is available to stream on Sling TV, YouTube, and Google Play. But it goes to show you how things have progressed from the 1950s, where just a little bit of New Orleans was shown, to the 80s, a little bit more, and now New Orleans is the centerpiece for a lot of productions. And let's hope that eventually the writer's strike and the actor's strike can settle itself, that we can get back to production again.
Now, we do, because this show is called Steppin' Out, we do want you to step out to movie theaters within the area, and not too far. In New Orleans itself, there are three gems, actually.
First of all, the Broad Theater.
Yes.
And I love how the Broad Theater has come back. When I'm mature enough to remember, it was just down the street. The building was down the street from Facto Bake. And
That's right.
It's not there anymore. But the Broad Theater has a $6 Tuesday screenings. All their screens are $6. That's a bargain, especially when you have to take a small SBA loan to go to the movies sometimes.
And Pim's Cups.
Yes, and they have the Pim's Cups, a great bar. And, of course, our good friends at the Britannia Theater Uptown. Britannia is still the only single-screen theater left in the state of Louisiana.
Wow. And then plus they now have their sister theater at Canal Place.
The Canal Place Theater. So
multi-screen.
I love how the Bernets have been able to improve and just adapt, and improve. So you have the Broad, you have the Britannia Uptown, you have the Britannia Canal Place. So you still have a lot of options for New Orleans if you don't have to step out to the suburbs.
All right, and now it's time for a nostalgic moment. Here is a piece of the past, where we look back at local history. I'm Peggy Scott Laborde with a piece of the past. This time we are highlighting some places where locals and visitors would go to here in New Orleans in 1964. On the cover of This Week in New Orleans is City Park's Storyland, thankfully still a vibrant attraction today. The movie It's a Mad, 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 Mad World was playing at the Martin Cinerama on Tulane Avenue. And for a slice of history, there was the Musée Conti, a wax museum in the French Quarter that featured some of the city's historical figures. Buck 49 had a stake with that incredible price at their locations on Airline Highway and Bourbon Street. Beloved clarinetist Pete Fountain had his own club on Bourbon for many years, and just a few blocks away was Tony's Pizza and Spaghetti House. If you wanted to imagine yourself in an exotic locale, there was the Bali High restaurant at Pontchartrain Beach. The Bali High's decor evoked a Polynesian paradise. And why not take a harbor tour on the steamer President, an Art Deco masterpiece that often featured local jazz bands. That's a piece of the past from WYES. Thanks for watching. And you can check out almost a dozen other history features on WYES's YouTube channel. And before we go to our picks, though, let's wax nostalgic for a minute. So y'all do remember Martin Cinerama?
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
How the West was won, all the big movies. And
they filmed them in 3 different cameras
Right.
at the same time, so to give you that wide screen, effect, so that you could see one camera here, one camera here, one camera there. So that, and they put them all together at the same time. So it was what, 70?
70 millimeter plus,
right?
And the actors in those films could never directly look at the
That's right.
camera.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
that was part of the Cinerama process with a C.
With a C.
With a
After it was
C.
spelled with an S.
because
that was a little
apparently
racy,
in later days, it did become...
It fell on hard times because of the fact that a lot of people stopped going to the theater, and so they decided what's attracting people, and apparently in some other areas like Los Angeles and New York, the porn industry was doing relatively well, so they decided to go
became
for it.
the sin.
Yeah, but that didn't last too long, not as long as the
Okay.
C
And,
sitting around.
and there were no films in 70 millimeter in that sense. So
You were talking about some of
news.
the other films in New Orleans too, though. I mean,
Yes.
you know, what was the one that they did in the zoo?
Cat
Cat
People.
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 Cat
The remake of Cat
Yeah,
People.
that was a really wonderful, and of course
Was good.
the wonderful. What was the one about the New Orleans thing where they were trouble in the streets, something like that?
Oh, Panic
Oh,
in the
Panic
Street.
in the
That was
Street.
Panic in the Street.
That's a
I
classic.
still remember that one about with Cat People. I'm watching it in the theater, and someone at that time, Channel 8 was running a promo about there goes that news van again, and there was a Channel 8 van in the shot, and I heard someone in the back of the theater, there goes that news van again.
Now, that was a really well done movie.
It
though.
was.
It
It
was
was well-
very eerie, and it made the city even more mysterious.
And
than
it showed
already
the
is.
New Orleans Zoo.
Yes.
The old
The old
New
zoo.
Orleans
Old zoo.
Yeah,
Yes.
not the one that's still
Cringe,
cleaned up and
cringe,
nice
lots
and
of
pretty.
cages, you know.
Lots of cages and
But,
a polar bear that was green.
Yes, yes.
Oh, wow.
I kind of
And
remember
David
that,
Bowie
unfortunately. Not
supplied the
anymore.
music for that, if
Yes,
I'm not mistaken.
that's right.
Yeah, no, that
Cat
was
People.
wonderful.
That was a-
Natasha Kinski.
Natasha Kinski.
And John Hurd.
John Hurd and Malcolm McDowell.
That's right. A very, creepy
It was all
Malcolm.
creepy.
I still never understood how Klaus Kinski could have produced such a lovely guy.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, okay, well, time for our picks, Alfred.
All right, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's a new animated version of Superman.
Woohoo!
And this one is available. It's a new, I guess, a younger version of Superman in between the idea of Christopher Reeve and what we've seen in The Man of Steel. But Christopher Reeve is a great influence in this one. It is available on the Cartoon Network and also on Hulu.
All right, Chef D.
Cool. Very cool.
So your website is chock full of information?
Yes, of course, it has information about the cooking school and the classes we offer, and we're hoping to add some extensions. So I'm looking to add some new pages to give more information.
Oh, good. And thank you for sharing that recipe. All y'all have to do is email me and I'll send it out. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And Alan.
Well, you know, Jennifer Shea is going to be leading a cast of mostly female players in The Odd Couple. If you haven't seen the female version of The Odd Couple, you can get on over to Past Christianity. This is going to be really playing for just 1 week in the Randolph Center in Past Christianity, July 20th, 21st, 22nd at 7:30, and then finally on Sunday, the matinee at 2 p.m. And I'll see you at the theater, but in a couple of weeks.
Okay, yes. And now my picks. Oh, it's quite the weekend. On Saturday morning, the annual local version of the Running of the Bulls with the Roller Girl Bulls takes place starting and ending at the Howlin' Wolf, and live music that morning and lots of other events over the weekend too. Go to nolabulls.com for more info. A busy weekend of concerts and master classes presented by the Musical Arts Society of New Orleans. It's their annual international piano competition. And that, by the way, a very special concert Saturday night. Guest artist Tatiana Durokova will perform, and this is one of my favorites, Mussorgsky's Pictures from an Exhibition, and other selections at the Roussel Hall at Loyola. Go to masno.org for more information on that and a complete schedule of all the activities. Next Tuesday, I'm so looking forward to this. Remember we had the Festa Opera Singers a few weeks ago. They're going to be, some of them going to be at the Deutsches Haus And the Opera Festa singers will be performing highlights from famous operas. Starts at 7 p.m., but food is available. They have all kinds of bratwursts and beers and all kinds of good stuff like that. They have that available. It's free admission, though, to go to it. Go to deutscheshaus.org for details on that. And in case you haven't heard, Garth Brooks, yes, Garth Brooks is headlining a concert September 2nd at the Caesars Superdome. The concert features Lainey Wilson and the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Remember the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band? Goodness. Tickets go on sale July 21st. Go to Ticketmaster/Garth Brooks for more info on that and to get the tickets. A 5K run with purpose will take place at Audubon Park on July the 22nd to support the New Orleans Mission, who work very hard to help the homeless. Go to neworleansmission.org for details. And before we leave, just back really quick to Chef Dee, how did you get interested in cooking? We didn't talk about from scratch.
Yeah, so I started cooking when I was 7 years old. I am one of 8 siblings, and I'm in the middle of 8. And it was a place that my mother knew where I was, right? She didn't have to look for me. I wasn't in a lot of trouble. And that was it. I had a lot of taste testers, and I got to explore. So that's how I got interested in
Are you
cooking.
still making cupcakes on occasion? Or?
On occasion, yes, not professionally, right? So don't send me any emails. But yeah, I'm still baking.
Yeah.
Baking is definitely my first love, and so yeah, I will never stop baking.
Are you doing any catering at all these days?
Not
right now.
yet.
So
Right now, I'm more focused on the cooking
classes.
school, and
Very
getting
good.
that moving. And so we'll see what happens in the future.
Such good news. Thank you. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
your success. Thank you all, gentlemen, and thank you for watching. Good night.
He's singing.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation promotes, preserves, and perpetuates music, culture, and heritage through programs, cultural, educational, and economic activities year-round. Learn more at jazzandheritage.org. The American Italian Cultural Center and Museum on South Peters in New Orleans offers event venue space, Italian language classes, dual citizenship and translation services, seminars, genealogy, and trips to Italy. Ciao! AmericanItalianCulturalCenter.com. This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.